This lesson, lesson 3, we're going to look at different forms and equation of quadratics. So previously we've looked at the key features of them, transforming them, factoring them, and solving them. So now we're going to look at the different ways that they can be represented or the different forms. Again, a quadratic will always look like a U or an N. However, your form can vary, and again, it can look 3 different ways. The first form is going to be standard. And this is a tree diagram. Standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. More times than not, you're going to be given your form in standard form. That's why it's called standard, right? It's the thing you see most often. Standard form always go from the variable with the biggest exponent to the smallest to eventually the constant. Again, just a quick highlight, your coefficient or a value is the number beside your variable with an exponent of 2. Your b value is the number beside your variable with a 1 or no exponent. Number without a variable is your c variable, or is your c value, also known as your constant. This right here, why is it useful? Each of these forms is going to tell us something unique. So, standard form, its biggest use is for determining your starting point or y-intercept of a quadratic. This is going to be huge in word problems in the future. On y'all's final or previous release finals that we can go back and look at and study, there's usually 1 or 2 questions that if you don't know standard form and what your C value represents, then you get it wrong, and it's like a 20% success rate or correction rate. So out of everybody across the state of North Carolina, only 1 out of every 5 get it right. Okay. The next form we're going to look at is factored form. So x plus or minus some number times x plus or minus some other number. Your factored form already gives you your quadratic separated into factors, thus the name factored form. Again, factored form, we looked at this when we solved. So if you want to know your solutions, roots, or zeros of a quadratic, again, just set each factor equal to 0 and then solve for your variable. The last form is going to be called vertex form. Vertex form resembles an equation after you've already completed the square. It allows you to easily identify the vertex. I wonder how it got its name, okay, which is the point H, K. Always take the opposite sign of H for the vertex. So, for example, if I have a x minus 2 squared plus k, again, I'm only focusing on h here. So h, I see this negative 2. H is really equal to 2 here. So whatever sign I see, I want to take the opposite of. So I see a -2, take the opposite. If I have ax plus 7 squared plus k, again, h is inside the parentheses beside the variable x. H is equal to -7 here. Again, take the opposite side. To check your work, so this is going to be huge. A bunch of questions are going to come from changing forms. So go from standard to factored, standard to vertex, factored to standard, factored to vertex, vertex to factored, vertex to standard. There's a lot of different forms here that you have to remember, and rules and whatnot. The easiest way I can tell you to remember or do these is you can always go back and double check your work this way. Use Desmos to see if your original expression and new expression overlap each other. If they overlap, then you have done the work right and you successfully changed forms of quadratics.